I never know like when it starts once I click it, but I'm gonna assume it's starting. Okay, so buenas tardes, bienvenidas, bienvenidos a la palabra poetry. I never know like when it starts once I click it, but I'm gonna assume it's starting. Hold on, you guys. Okay, I need to turn Facebook off. Okay, still streaming. Great, great, great. Okay, so back to my spiel. My name is Angelina Sainz, and I am your host for this afternoon. La Palabra Poetry is one of the oldest running poetry readings in the city of Los Angeles and is part of the literary activities hosted by Avenue 50 Studio in Highland Park. This reading is funded in part by the City of Los Angeles Cultural Affairs Department and by community members like you. I'd like to begin with a quote from Audre Lorde. Poetry is not a luxury, it is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of the light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams toward survival and change. First made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action. Poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. The farthest horizons of our hopes and fears are cobbled by our poems, carved from the rock experiences of our daily lives. So with that quote, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today for an hour of Palabra. Today we have three dynamite poetas, Karla Cordero, Viktoria Valenzuela, and Gris Muñoz. We will begin with Karla, then Viktoria and Gris will close us out. Again, thank you for joining us today. So Karla, take it away.
All right, y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. Y'all give it up for Palabra, for Angelina hosting such a beautiful space on Sunday and making space for all these amazing writers that get to come through. So I'm gonna hit my 15 minutes and then get out your face because I want to hear these writers share work and I'm super excited. So let me jump into some poems. So as mentioned, my name is Karla Cordero. My pronouns she, hers. I'm coming live zooming from the land of the Kumeyaay people, and it is an absolute honor to be here to share some work. So let's get straight to it. Let me get to my work. So first poem I'm gonna read today is, I grew up in the border town of Calexico, California, which borders Mexicali, Mexico. And one of the few things we got to do was play pool. And so as a young girl, I got to play pool and later got to use it as forms of currency. So you'll quickly learn in the poem. So enjoy. Titled Tiburon. Once, as a child, my parents and a credit card bought a pool table. I found myself in the backyard with clumsy hands and growing breasts. And I claimed corner pocket until I could master to sink an 8-ball. And by 15, the neighborhood kids knew of the Mexican girl named Tiburon, the shark who'd bite at the sound of a pool stick chopped into strategy for Walmart gift cards. And I recall a time when a boy who thought himself a man challenged me to a game of strip pool. I thanked the sky for the cold desert night, for cloaking my body with layers. I emptied the table of its stripped billiards, and the boy who thought himself a man stripped down to a full moon, cupped his manhood, and I walked away with his shit talk in my pocket. Years later, in college, my roommate asked to accompany her to the local pub. The bar sticky and old beer and jukebox. We took our seat from broken stools, rickety when our legs crossed themselves for good balance. The room full of tall men hovered over the pool table, their hands choking the necks of IPAs. I stacked a tower of quarters on the table, stared down a white man covered in mermaid tattoos, trapped in the ocean of his arm. I'll play for $5 and a few smokes. I break the table and his jaw snaps back at the reckless dance. 4 beers later, I sweep a $20 bill in American spirits. I walk into the alley, smoke my winnings, and exchange my dollar bills for a California burrito. my mouth smothered in salsa verde. I laughed at the history of the man who dared doubt the feral animal that blazes in this blood. So y'all give it up for Tiburon, the younger version of myself that continues to play pool on her free time, of course. So I'm gonna read another poem for you all. And if you're hearing stuff we love today, be sure to give it a shout out on Facebook Live or your Zoom if that's a possibility. Use your emojis if there's stuff you love. All right, so next poem. As a little girl, some of the first music I ever heard was out of a radio, and it was Aretha Franklin on replay. So this is a poem dedicated to Aretha Franklin and the lessons I was taught as a young girl. So here we go. How Aretha saves. Back then, the summer sun beat down all that it touched, and the metal patio benches boil like caldo that no one wanted in July. How the brown sparrows sit on their branches stiff as stones to preserve their feather movement for when the babies need feeding. And my father called these days days without a street dog's bark. So quiet you could hear a death cook into the savory bones of baby back ribs and carne asada sizzling on the grill, the loudest of music next to the boom box blasting Aretha Franklin, her sound sweet as iced tea. We swear her voice would send a push of wind and turn down the day's heat by 5 degrees. And my sisters and I would cool our temp hot bodies in bathing suits and cannonball the swimming pool. We take turns holding the garden hose like a microphone. Our mosquito bite boobies rise to sit front row to witness all this joy, all this beauty. As we howl respect, find out what it means to me, meaning we sing a language we crave to repel the stubborn chlorine out our face. Meaning we shout, say respect to us, to the blue water's desire to drown our body when dad ain't looking. My arms slice through pool water like machetes through butter, and I close my lungs and submerge my black hair swaying like Medusa's child. I recite Aretha Franklin underwater, my voice bubbling to the surface, respect, respect, respect. Find out what it means to me, holding each lyric in my throat like a life jacket I never thought would save me in my girlhood, keeping us alive and always floating above water. So give it up for Aretha. Hey, Aretha, I love her so much. On repeat all the time. All right, so I got a few more poems for y'all. This next poem, fresh out the notebook, pero a ver, well, you know, that's how we play. So when I'm not writing poems, I call myself Chicana backyard organic farmer. I grow a lot of my own food. I spend a lot of time growing stuff and sharing it with the vecinos and making stuff. And so this is a poem dedicated to the sunflowers that have been giving me so much joy in the midst of the pandemic. So this is titled, When I Write a Poem About a Flower, know this is still a poem about being Chicana. Because this morning I choose not to dress my history's pain in metaphor. Because I choose to worship the sunflower instead. I choose to count every petal like a stack of coins and call this my wealth. I choose to take notice of the neighbors who walk on by and smile at all this growth. Because I make my own kind of freedom from the soil I own. Because I choose to see the work it takes to bloom a face into existence. Because I choose to honor the flower's ability to be a tower with the birds, to sway at the push of wind, to stay tall despite dog piss, despite the bone-dry dirt, the harsh heat without mercy, testing its ability to never bow down to the death of drought. Because when I speak about another flower in another poem, I sprout language from my own muscle and blood, the blood and muscle handed me by surviving ancestors. And ain't that enough proof of my own survival? To talk about a flower, to talk about all the flowers without fearing the act of wilting away. Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna keep pushing forward. Okay, so I think I'm gonna read some oldie but goodies and then close out with another new poem. So this next poem I'm gonna read to y'all is an oldie but goodie from my book, How to Pull Apart the Earth. So y'all feel free to check it out. If you haven't, please do so. So one of the things I've grown closer to is returning back to the very act of what my parents taught me. When you find yourself in the middle of chaos, return to prayer, return to poems. These are all acts we do in the dark, hoping some godlike figure will hear us and give us some kind of tangible hope. So this is called prayer. Sometimes prayer is in the shape of 6 Mexicans in a bedroom. We squeeze rosary beads and wish a pomegranate would bloom from our hands and into our mouths. Instead, Mama says every decade shoots through the popcorn ceiling, cuts through the clouds, knocks at La Virgen or baby Jesus or whoever clocks in that day to transcribe a Hail Mary and an Our Father, to resurrect a mother's dead child, to provide a safe path across a grave-offering desert. And I imagine prayer works like this. A saint picks Mama's prayer from a jar like a seed, and Mama prays for Tia Irma's cancer, for Dad's stiff joints, for the dying dog at the border. She says, don't forget to say your amens or Jesucito won't hear us. Amen, amen, amen. And in the palm of a glowing saint, a seed demands to be a garden. All right, gang. So I'm gonna read 2 more poems, and I'm super excited to hear everybody else's work. Okay. Another one from the book. This is a short one. It's called Gathering the Fragments. After Tracy K. Smith, after darkness, we will swallow the light, become the stars that left us to beckon the matchbox, gather the pieces, bend and curve their edges. We will pull the sky over rust and unfossil every family out of hiding. Having outlived every threat, we'll plant a fig tree for every life lost and become our memories, the good medicine to rebuild ourselves back to blood and good bone. We'll chip away at what pushed us back. Dictators, molasses, roads, white noise. Our homes will be built of books written from the faces of those who sacrificed their sharp mouths to keep us here. All right, one more poem, and then I'm so excited to hear everybody else. I'm so excited. Okay, so in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of like, someone has a compromised health, someone who's been just like trying to tune out the loudness of the world. I've been reaching to people like Ross Gay and trying to find gratitude in the smallest cracks and crevices of the world. So this is a poem in trying to extract and cultivate as much gratitude as possible. So this will be my last poem. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate you so much. Here we go. Let me get to it real quick. A ver. All right, here it is. So this is titled, which side note, references to Catholicism, that Jesus died on the cross and on the 3rd day resurrected. So we honor the Sabbath, which is Sunday, just kind of side note on that. So here we go, titled Gratitude to All Things That Resurrect Aside from the Lord on Sunday. Somehow I was convinced resurrection was only for a man leaving a tomb. And perhaps I blame the Bible, perhaps I blame myself for overlooking God's synonyms for rising. So perhaps I forgive myself, how I never thought to praise my own flesh, little machine of muscle that levitates her own weight from the mattress to the floor to Monday, to days of madness, testing my ability to stay a mountain. So let this moment be grace at the kitchen table, to thank the bagel who blares the heat wave, toaster of sacrifice, arise to crisp, only to witness its own burial, buried in cream cheese or avocado, or perhaps to sit beside a bed of huevo con weenies or an omelet. And oh Lord, let us praise the brown egg, you tiny bird death, never seeing the light of feather, whose purpose is called to rise, yolk in yellow, yolk in textured volume, complementing the iced coffee with its condensation, feeding a cloud's belly, belly full of rain from the backyard, for the backyard garden and all that it grows. So let us praise the bean sprout in the raised bed, O smallest of miracles, brave leaf who lifts its arms to the largest of burning stars. And shall I praise the holiest of risings, swollen womb, 9 months growing in my sister's belly, birthing my niece. So praise my niece, who runs like a tugboat at sea, who raises her knees to sail, breaking through every wild shrub, like this poem breaking this blank page in her silence, like the black ink of language marching like ants home together to see another tomorrow. So let us praise this page, you slow ending, you funeral I hate, yet take joy in its making. So I too can make space for the skeleton of words that will rise and show us how hope will speak again and again and again. I say, Alleluia, amen. Thank you all so much, appreciate you.
Oh my goodness. Hey.
All right.
Whoa.
Wow, mujer, amazing. Thank you so much. You know, I really, wow, I was kind of on the edge of my seat with the girl poems at the beginning.
She brought it.
I felt that vulnerability for sure. And this last one was so deep, like, wow. And I love the title. I love the title so much. So thank you, Karla, for being here. And, you know, I want to apologize because I'm a dork and I didn't read your bio porque ando de prisa. So, all right. So let me read Karla's bio because she's the bomb and you should know more about her if you already don't. And then I'll introduce Viktoria. So Karla Cordero is a descendant of the Chichimeca people from Northern Mexico, a Chicana poet, educator, and artivist raised along the borderlands of Calexico, California. She is a 3-time Pushcart nominee and offered fellowships from VONA, Macondo, Canto Mundo, the Loft Literary Center, Community of Writers, and Pink Door Writing Retreat. Karla teaches creative writing and composition at San Diego City College and Mira Costa College, receiving recognition such as the San Diego State University Global Diversity Award and Associate Faculty of the Year for Education and Social Justice. Her poems have appeared in the Academy of American Poets, Poem a Day, Pank, Bettering American, Poetry Latino Book Review, the Bernie Sanders 2020 Campaign Rally, the Breakbeat Poets Volume 4, Latin Next Anthology, among other publications. And I will put Karla's book, I will post it on the La Palabra webpage with a link for you to purchase it, okay? So thank you so much. Oh, I have it right here. It was on the next page. Karla's the author of the chapbook, Grasshoppers Before Gods, Dancing Girl Press 2016, and her first full-length collection titled How to Pull Apart the Earth from Not a Cult 2018 is the 2019 San Diego Book Award winner and award-winning finalist for the 2019 International Book Award. Hey. Okay, so Viktoria Valenzuela is a Master of Arts degree graduate student of English, Creative Writing, and Social Justice at Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio, Texas. She is also an inaugural Zooglasia Fellow, a Macondista, and the organizer of 100,000 Poets for Change San Antonio. Her work is published in books and collections such as Puro Chicanx Writers of the 21st Century, Word Gathering, the Zooglasia Anthology, We Are Not Your Metaphor, Raising Mothers, Poetry Bay Online Journal, and Mother Magazine. Her scholarship and creative writing address social justice, disability, intersectional motherhood issues, and Chicana feminism. So let's welcome Viktoria Valenzuela. Yay.
Hi, thank you so much, Angelina, for inviting me to this reading. I'm so happy to be reading with these beautiful women um, and share my work with you. I would first like to say that I am a descendant of the people of this land of San Antonio, a land once inhabited by the Apaches, Tonkawa, and Comanche nomadic people. To this day, displaced are the Payaya and the Tecan band of the San Pedro Springs Park area. This is stolen land. I would also like to recognize the passing of a wonderful legend, the legendary Greg Barrios. In his honor, I salute and Greg Barrios presente. That's very strong on a Sunday.
Woo!
And in the poetic words of my friend Greg Barrios from his book, let's see. Ooh. La Causa, the coolest, the most awesome, legendary Chicano of my time. He said his last poem in this book, I reckon someday we'll meet again, recalling the poet's line, home is where you go when they have to take you in. I was home for better or worse. Thank you for entertaining me while I recognize my people. um, so I have two manuscripts that I would like to read from. One is very new that I wrote in the last year and very political. All my work is political. And the other is works that I wrote 6 and 7 years ago when I was giving birth to my last two babies. I'm a mother of 7. I have a foster son. I gave birth to 4 children, and I am the stepmom to 2 girls. So I have lots of babies. Everybody calls me mama. I'm gonna start with a new poem that's called Slow Love. Let me gather myself, slow in the afterglow of a rainy morning, the 7th day of January, the first of a new century year. My body, shimmering purple, blue, red, licked flat by the downpour, puffing for petrichor. Not watching the television, all aglow on the first day of a new govern, meant to sunder airborne and nebulous clouds. On a TV, in the distance of our home, news of folks grabbing sunshine, and the puddles settle slick, stroking textural patterns on the body of our capital. Firmament liable to a good morning after morning here for so long. After 100 days, I'll gather the mist to my breast. The loam of us is slow to sprout bloom. This is an older poem it's an epistle called Dear Stars. Dear Stars, I met you in bed, unaware that I was one of you. The dust of my dust is your dust too. I am at once inside infinity, while you are at the middle of me and all around me. I can almost taste sparkling champagne, or is it moonlit rain that celebrates you, child, who was once inside me? Edged with the lathers of memory, though my waters never split without help, I held us in until birth. It was a slice, or maybe it was an explosion in the body that echoed infinity. The birth of my birth is your birth, really our birth. And in bed, I sensed the holding pattern of our last Bach tune, and the doctor has cut at the base of my abdomen. She has pulled our warrior god from me, our crowning jewel. She has sewn me back together with barbed wire. Alone, we three huddle together behind a scrim of certainty. My body is a bridge. Our thoughts of birth. I close my eyes when the sacred pain of nursing a newborn begins. My breasts drip warm milk over the stabbing contractions of womb. I breathe as if in natural labor. All the pain comes after in a C-section. Outstretched beside us, an all-knowing placenta, the tree of life. Endlessly, endlessly with love, Mama. I really like space and stars and all of the universe and the multiverse, and so I'm kind of a nerd about it. So you'll find it in my poetry always mentioned. This is a newer poem, and it was inspired by Pluto, the declassified planet. And, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking to Bill Nye the Science Guy, and he said, well, we're Terrans. And I didn't know what a Terran was. He said, no, an Earthling, like Terra, Earth. And I said, oh, okay. And so for some reason, my mind was just, let's talk about Pluto. And I am a Plutonian, right? So that's what this poem is a meditation about, is how I am a Plutonian. Parents assured me that I was born here. I originate from somewhere in Indiana. Then, for the rest of my life, they called me an Indian. They called me Indian or a Prieta or Hoosier, but I was born on Earth in the middle of America during the sexiest part of winter. They, my parents, dug a swirling cryovolcano from the front door of the house to the car that drove us to the hospital. Mama was in labor. Daddy was the witness. Black swooping curls. My crowning moment was red and slick. A toothless mouth, agape for a red birth. Mama said I was late, but the truth is much colder than Plutonian snow. The truth is, I was born 3.6 billion miles from the sun. The truth is, my parents have not called now that I've renamed myself a Plutonian. The time-space tensor between us simply hums.
I love it so much.
Thank you.
She's so cute.
A fun fact about Pluto is the snow is red. So, my next poem is also a new poem, and it's for my sisters and my fellow parents that are trapped in a immigration cycle. They can't move forward. They can't move back. My heart goes out to them. My heart especially goes out to the mothers. Nightly news. Her children, taken by ICE, whom she may not see again, resemble my children. Her hair, tufts poking out in places, silky and black, is pulled taut into a bun like mine. Her skin, from days and days and days in the sun, chapped, is the same red-brown hue as mine. Her hands, clasped in her lap, one handcuffed to the other, are ringing like mine. We ask again and again and again, what can we do? Her name is the one our children call us, Mama. They scream out every given night that a baby is captive, a nightmare. This is a newer poem titled The Scent of a Battle. The scent of a battle. Understand that a black hole eats stars for breakfast. We only have this moment to lie in sunshine. You've given me an omelet with salsa, the avocado folded inside. Our sun was planted between us in sunshine. You soothe my fear of death in childbirth, and from the windows, we are bathed in sunshine. You enter my pregnant desire, delve deeper from the slit in sunshine. The things we do with bare bodies, blood cannot strip away. Our reverence for the other is sheathed in sunshine. This will be my last poem. I have a thing for dust as well. This is called Thank You to the Dust. Poets. Anyway, thank you to the dust. Thank you to the flowers of each milk-producing breast that made fat my born children. Thank you to the marigolds grown and set out for the 2 children miscarried in my youth. Thank you to 2 more daughters holding space on this side. Thank you to the white butterflies and bees that kissed blessings into my body as I crossed but did not die. Thank you to all the mangoes in summertime. Thank you to this journey sweetened with honey fruit. Thank you to the dust of Sananto, hastily bitten into the darkest parts of my skin, so that I never wear too thin, too ripe, or rip apart at the seams. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I learned something about you. Amazing. I didn't know you were a fellow space nerd. Woo! We gotta let's do a space, just like a space themed reading about space. I would love that. I got shit to say about Stephen Hawking's girl.
I would love that. And I just got the new book that's called, what is it called? It's about the new string theory. What's his name?
You said fucking string theory.
Micho. I know. We have lots of things to talk about.
Oh, this is a new thing. We need to talk about this. I'm so excited. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, that's another treat of my day. Talking about found an outer space homie. Shoot. And let me tell you, girl, people who are mad at people spending money on outer space, I'm like, you better step off. You better leave outer space alone. Okay. Moving on. Gris Muñoz is a Frontera poet and storyteller. She is the author of the bilingual poetry and short story collection, Coatlicue Girl. Hey. Most recently named a finalist for the John A. Robertson Award for Best First Book of Poetry by the Texas Institute of Letters. Her work has been highlighted by The Rumpus, Bitch Media, and the Smithsonian Latino Center, among others. And she has most recently been featured by the Texas Book Festival, the Tamarindo Podcast, and the Latino Collection and Resource Center at San Antonio Public Library in collaboration with Texas Public Radio. She is also the co-founder of the digital map and storytelling project Geotestimonios Transfrontericex, which aims to record the experiences of women living on the El Paso Juarez border. Gris is currently commissioned to write the biography of acclaimed LA artist Fabian de Borda. She is a Chicana of Apache descent. So take it away, my friend. Thank you.
I am absolutely honored to be here. Viktoria, that was gorgeous. And It's always so interesting to see poets like not in person, but like their demeanor and like Victoria, she seems really you seem really kind of like shy a little bit like while you were reading. And I was just like thinking like, oh man, there's like galaxies inside that woman. And Karla, I've been wanting to meet you and read with you for so long. And I just love your work and I love your book. So I was super excited that finally had a chance to hear you read and to read alongside you. So this is just an honor for me to be here, and Angelina as well. Super excited about your forthcoming book with Flower Song Press, and just a great way to be spending a Sunday afternoon with these mujeres that I admire so much. So thank you for having me. Actually, I decided to read just a few pieces, one of them a prose piece, and that is kind of based around motherhood because I was trying to think of something that all of us have in common, and we're all mothers on this reading. I know Victoria's work focuses a lot on her motherhood, and that's something that I've reached out to her about. I really admire that. And Karla talks about motherhood as well in her work. So I'm just gonna get going. Let's see. Oh, and I'm going to be reading from my collection, Guadalupe Girl. Um, this first one is short. It's called Oral History. Ask me about the stories I'd rather tell than write. And I'm going to be reading Las Diosas. And kind of like felt like it went along a little bit with Karla's work. So I wanted to read this one for her. Las Diosas. Las diosas viven en casas de cartón, papeles desechados. Toman el agua que vive en los charcos, caminan solas por calles oscuras sin nombre marcado. Las diosas celebran debajo de las revoluciones. De periódicos cosen vestidos y hacen fiestas en los callejones, construyen moños de todos los colores, usando bolsas de plástico y cordones. Cuidan de las niñas que viven sin dulces realidades, vendiendo gomas de chicle en galaxias siderales, en puentes de plomo que separan dos lenguajes y unen los vicios comunales. Cuidan de las mujeres vendiendo su piel en las calles, cuerpos sagrados, usando disfraces. Corren detrás de carros gritando, pero como todo lo hacen cantando, no las escucha nadie. Las diosas no duermen, esperan afuera de salones de baile por jovencitas que están encomendadas a ellas por humildes madrecitas. Las diosas viven en casas de cartón, cajas de refri con palabras escurridas. Son sencillas, no existen sentadas en sillas divinas o altares con fruta y cosecha de milpas. Dicen, dáselo a las vivas. And I wanted to share the illustration that goes along with that poem in Guadalupe Girl. This was designed by Los Dos, Cristian and Ramon Cárdenas, El Paso and Juarez-based artists. And so they actually designed 4 illustrations for the book, exclusive illustrations. So I just love that one. I kind of like want to get a tattoo of it, but feel like it would like just kind of maybe be a whole lot on my back. But that's kind of where I'm going. I think I'm gonna start tattooing Los Dos illustrations on my body. I don't know how many. And I was gonna read this piece called Weekend. And it's not a poetry piece, it's a prose piece, and it's just about single motherhood. And ultimately, I write a lot about motherhood. Guadalupe Girl is kind of like, there's a lot going on in it. Like, Guadalupe is like, vamos a decir, la esencia que es like la madre de todas las otras esencias, right? Because I don't really like to say diosas, like in that way. There's thought of more as an essence, right? But Guadalupe, right, is this like the idea of motherhood. And so in the book, like I'm a mother, and I kind of deconstruct my childhood and experiences with my mother, and then I'm a mother. And so there's just like a lot of like mother, the theme of mother going on in the book. And so I'm gonna read this piece called Weekend. It was Saturday, 9 a.m. I'd already searched all of the purses hanging on the coat rack and any wallet stuffed into that laundry basket of clothes I kept hidden in the closet. I had found a dollar bill in the plaid backpack and another dollar smashed into the zipper compartment of a brown leather wallet my mom had given me last summer. I smoothed out the smashed dollar and stacked them both on my pile next to a pile of, and stacked them both on my bed next to a pile of change. I tried to think of any place I hadn't looked. I'd even gone through all of my coats and jackets, even the two in the trunk of my car, quickly sticking my cupped hand into their pockets to survey for anything I'd left behind. Since I was already there, I went ahead and unlocked the door so I could search the side and middle consoles and under the seats, only finding a fistful of dusty coins. I went inside and added the change to the pile on the center of my bed. It looked sooty in parts and colored in others from the broken left behind makeup in my purses. I grabbed at the pile in handfuls, dropping the coins into my kitchen colander to wash them with hand soap in the bathroom sink. Once clean, I folded the change into a towel and spread it across my bed. I carefully began to count the change. First, it was the quarters. Every time I made a dollar with quarters, I'd put those coins into their own small stack. Then the dimes and nickels. The dimes made 3 piles. 3, 4, 5. I had $2 bills and $5.50 in coins. There was nothing left to pawn, so it was all I had for groceries until Monday. I'd go to the fruteria later, but would have to walk to the 7-Eleven with my toddler as soon as she woke up from her nap. She was going to ask for milk and would not be able to wait until after the store. I hadn't been able to breastfeed longer than a few months, but the milk hadn't really left me. I could only squeeze a few drops out at a time and never much more. When my baby woke up, I carefully dressed her and we headed out the front door onto the sidewalk. She was almost 3 and wanted to hold my hand and walk too. The corner store was only a block from where I lived, so I figured it wouldn't be too much for her to handle. We lived on Altura Street in central El Paso. I'd grown up on the other side of town, but eventually moved to Sunset Heights when I moved in with my daughter's father. We'd lived like artists. When we broke up, I moved to Central with the baby. I would have preferred to stay in Sunset Heights, but this neighborhood was as close to the university as I could afford. I pointed out the plants I knew the names to on the way. Mira, these are geranios, and those are bugambilias. They're your abuelita's favorites. She'd repeat the names after I said them. Right before crossing the street, I grabbed a strand of rosemary and held it to her face. Mira, mi amor, this is Romero. She crinkled her nose, making me laugh. I know it has a strong smell. I should have warned you, I said. We reached the store parking lot. I noticed a luxury sports car parked somewhere near the back of the lot, near the dumpsters. I wouldn't have noticed it as much, except that it was parked at an angle. It seemed out of place for this neighborhood. As we neared the store, we had to walk in front of the car, and I noticed a man sitting inside. He was already watching me. He was watching me in that familiar way that Mexican men do, where they hyper-focus on any part of yours that might be used for their sexual gratification. The men around here, they don't even try to hide it. These men, these fathers and grandfathers, they eyeball indiscriminately, mentally undressing any mujeres and even any niñas over 10 with a hint of tits and ass with their eyes. I felt him watching me with my baby, and I felt a tepid anger rising in my stomach. I used to ignore them, but at some point, I stopped being able to. The half-gallon of milk was $2.49. I still had $5 to buy food for the weekend. I was sad. When we walked out, the car was still there, except the man had gotten out and was leaning against the driver's side door. He looked wealthy. Even in casual weekend clothes, he was tall and somewhat lean, like maybe he ran or went to the gym a couple of times a week. He was Latino, his face light-skinned with faded pockmarks on both cheeks. He was still watching me. It felt like he was waiting for me now. He was smiling at us as we got closer. Hola, he said. I eyed him and kept walking. He tried again, this time in English. Hi, excuse me, do you speak English? I stopped, and as much as I didn't want to, said, yes. I figured he needed directions somewhere. Hi, I'm actually looking for a young woman to clean my house a few times a week. I live over by the mountain and I pay very well. He focused on my chest. Do you happen to know any young mothers or students that could use some extra money? Would you be interested? He leaned in and smiled. Other jobs are involved, not just cleaning. I don't. I said it sharply. I didn't look at him anymore and gripped my daughter's hand even tighter. I started walking again, angered at what he was doing, at what we both knew he had meant. It wasn't even like I'd never considered it, but I had learned to identify when someone was preying on me. Life had taught me that ability. A bag of beans was 79 cents. I bought the beans, 1 large onion, 2 Roma tomatoes, 2 Mexican calabazas, 2 bags of fideo that was 3 for $1, and the rest in green grapes for B. We just had to make it till Monday. Thank you.
Oh my God. I don't even know what just happened.
Yeah, broke ass women unite. I saw that.
Oh my
I know
God.
what it's like to have a baby and to be a woman of color and to be broke and to be in a city that is always trying to exploit you in every way, from labor, from sexual, like, you know, this city, if I walked outside right now and I gave this city what it wanted, I'd be dust. right? This is just each women here. And so it was just like, and these are all real stories. In Liquid Girl, these are all true stories, and there were just things that kind of always stayed in my mind about, you know, that time and just like the, you know, and so I also want to make a point that I'm not dissing sex work. It was the power structure of the moment and what this guy was doing. He was going into the hood and looking for hungry single moms to exploit, right? You know, there's just different avenues for going about sex work. And so I just want to make a side note that this story is in no way anti-sex work, but it was very, in that moment, exploitative what he was doing. And you know, and I'm sure that's what that guy did. On top of, you know, you think that I was the first woman he ever approached with that confidence, you know, and to think that, you know, that's survival, you know, as a single mom, sometimes, and it can be. And you know, and it also kind of like brings us back to how like we have all we need, like a bag of beans. And Angelina, we've talked about beans, 79 cents for the 1 pound of beans. That'll last me 3-4 days, right? And we make them with the onion.
And they're so wonderful. It's like, yo, what can you do with $20? You just look, I'll tell you, eggs, chile, cebolla, tomate, frijoles, tortillas. Queso could be a privilege or not. But I mean, honestly,
survive.
Yeah. But you know, I think what's important about today's reading is that, and I'm always thinking about this, but you know, there are just so many stereotypes about, you know, Latinas, right? Weird shit. Like, I don't know. People talk about things. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, our portrayal, and even we do it ourselves. Even we stereotype ourselves and write weird stuff too. Anyway, but like, you know, all of you today, you were just so, you know, specific about, you know, outer space and playing pool and, you know, our own resurrection and something, you know, there's something to be said. It's real interesting because I grew up poor and, you know, and I'm still, you know, single income earner, and I definitely watch my budget and everything. But in the world that we live in today, everybody's so flashy, and I don't feel like people talk about poverty anymore, right? And all of us are still pinche hustling. Like, thank God for the child tax credit. Oh my gosh, like, you know, damn, you know what $250 a month does for me? My ex gets my other son's money, right? But I'm like, oh my gosh. But who talks about that? Like, people act like I'm gonna go buy sneakers for $250. I'm like, what? That's like my child's tuition. That's like groceries. So I just really appreciate today's reading because we talked about things that are true about our lives, and we're not trying to front, right? About, I don't know what other kind of portrayal of reality we're talking about. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you everybody, you know, who joined us for this hour of La Palabra. And we'll be here again next month, last Saturday of the month at 2 p.m. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your Sunday. Thank you for being here, and to be continued. Gracias.
Thank you.
Hasta luego.
Thank you, ladies.
Ciao.